Welcome to a Roboflow training movie. In this training movie, I will talk about the Dropbox extension for Roboflow. In Roboflow, you cannot talk directly to Dropbox, but I offer a plugin called the Dropbox Plugin, and when you install this plugin, you will have a new set of instructions. If we have a look inside your actions, as soon as this plugin is installed, you will have a Dropbox section, and in this Dropbox section you find the possibility to delete a file in Dropbox, to download a file, to list the files on Dropbox, to share a file, to store the information of a file that is on Dropbox, and to upload a file to Dropbox. So in a previous training movie I already showed how you can upload and share a file to Dropbox, which can be then used, for instance, as a delivery tool. Maybe you prepare by Roboflow some files in Cumulus, put them in a zip, and then you upload them to, for instance, Dropbox. You could also monitor a Dropbox folder and just download the files in there. In this example today, we are going to list the files that are in a Dropbox folder, and we're gonna evaluate them and look for information about them and maybe delete them. So this could be used as a kind of cleanup. Maybe you are using already the other workflow to do a delivery, but maybe you want files older than a certain amount of time. Maybe you want those to be deleted. I have an example on the cloud where in my Dropbox folder I have an automatic system that uses Roboflow to send a backup of a certain amount of files. It zips them every day and uploads them into the cloud. Now that's perfect system, very safe, but the disadvantage is, of course, after a while you end up with way too many files there. So maybe you want to clean up. So maybe you want a system that says anything that is from 2017 can be thrown away, or anything that is from 2017 can be and from November 2017 can be thrown away. And so those are the kind of things we're looking for to make sure that they get nicely cleaned up, and so that our folders don't end up being much too big, taking too much space in our Dropbox. So how do we accomplish this? Well, first of all, in this workflow I configured it as a hot folder, and in the hot folder I've put a little parameter file, and that parameter file lists the folders I'm interested in. So I have a folder called test new, what I'm interested in to look in, and let's say I'm going to take another one. So let's have a look. What else do I have here in the cloud backup? I also have, for instance, my share folder. So if I look inside my share folder, I see I have some files in here, and I also have, for instance, test new folder, where at this point I only have one file in it. So let's have a look, and I could also do the root. Then you just can specify a slash, but or nothing can also be valid. Slash has to be replaced by nothing in the workflow as to look into the root. But let's say that I do slash, and already forgot the name of the other folder I wanted to do, which is share. So I'm going to do share and slash. So I'm going to put here those two folders. Okay, in this workflow I built in the possibility to only look at text files that come in, and this file that I have, if I assume this workflow is a kind of cleanup, I could say that I'm only using this as a parameter file, so I don't want it to be deleted, so I've disabled the default deletion function of a hot folder, so the file will always be there. Then I have my normal configuration files, credential file for connecting to Dropbox. If you want to know how that works, please check out the first training movie. You create on Dropbox in an app, and you give it a certain name. You get credentials for that, and you use those credentials to connect. So we're reusing that, and then you can say, what is my Dropbox upload folder? In this case is actually a parameter that shouldn't be here. It's a copy from the other workflow, so that was for uploading files, so forget about that folder. And then what I built in is I want to look in my folder on Dropbox, and I only want to process a certain type of file. Maybe it can be a file extension you're looking for, maybe it can be a file name you're looking for. So what I'm saying is a file on Dropbox is actually the complete path of that file, and folders don't really exist. A key or the identifier of a file is the path of the file, including the name. So I'm putting a file filter on that, and I'm saying that it can be any character up to the slash and then any number of characters, and then I'm looking for 2017, and let's just start by doing only 2017 11, and then after that it can be anything. And so this is a regular expression. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, just Google it. It's explained in detail all over the place. As I said, the purpose of this workflow is actually to delete files, but in this case I first want to run it in a mode that it just tells me what it is going to delete. So I'm setting this to no, and so I'm clicking OK, and now I'm going to run the workflow. I've enabled debug on this with the debug tag, not with the debug parameter. I'll show you the difference in a moment, but it's giving us a lot of debug information just so that you understand what information is coming back. So what I'm doing is I'm opening the file, could be multiple files of course, but I'm opening this file and I'm reading it line per line, and I'm finding the first line being /test new, and that's this first line, and I'm saying, okay, I want to look for that folder. So it connects to Dropbox and says to Dropbox, give me the list of files. Dropbox always answers in a map. It returns, or a hash table, a table of information. And so in this case, it gives me the file names. It gives me optionally if there are parents, shared parents, in this case there are none, and also path to lowercase. It gives the full path, and then it gives the normal path, which is called Dropbox path, which is the one that that I'm using here. So from that path, this is which looks like this, similar to the lowercase, but then of course optionally not lowercase. It will be semicolon separated, and so semicolon separated meaning that you might have 10 entries, 10 files in that folder, which always be separated by a comma. Then so I'm saying, okay, I have this file that I found, and it finds information about this file, saying so what I do then is I ask for the information for that individual file. It's called store info about a file, and that returns the date it was modified by the client or the server, the date it was modified on the server, so which is the difference between the file date actually and the file, the date it was uploaded into the cloud, an ID. Then you can get every information that is in there as a JSON string, for instance. That's what this is. Or you can get it in a formatted, what they call it, JSON string, which is then this version, which is then nicer formatted with character returns in it, etc. It also returns, of course, the name, the path, which you already have, the lower. If it is shared, if this file is shared, then this will return also, and the file size in bytes. So it returns all that, and it also returns that doesn't come from Dropbox. This is just internal information that it returns from the plugin, the Roboflow plugin, and the version of the Roboflow plugin is this version. So that's also useful. Okay, so what we get then is the next line in my file. And so the next line in my file is /share, and I'm going to have a look on share, and it says give me the list of files in the share folder. What I'm getting as a result is I'm getting this list. You can see these are all the files, and they are semicolon separated. And so here's a separator, there's a separator. So these are the files in that particular folder. If I now look a little bit further, the workflow now evaluates that particular file against the file filter, and we said we only want files from that contains the text 2017-17. So 11, sorry. So in this folder there's plenty of files, but if we disable the debug, you would not see anything being processed, because there is nothing to process, because none of the files have the 2017 tag in their name, and they all are from 2018. So to modify this example, for instance, I could say that I want to have the 2018 files, and that I want to process maybe 2018, and maybe, let me first check for a valid date, show log, and so I have 2018 05. So I have a 2018 05. Whatever. 2018 05. Looks like I have a couple of files that have that naming convention. So I'm going in here, and at this point I'm checking, I'm working on the naming convention, but you could just as well ask for the date of the file that it has and say, okay, this file has been on the on Dropbox for 3 months, so I'm throwing it away. And so that's how easy this is. And this workflow, of course, now I'm hard coding this, but this could also be the date times format date time placeholder from Roboflow that calculates the time before, for instance, today minus 6 months. So here I'm going for the 18, and I said I had a couple of interesting files that had 05 in it and that I want to process. So I'm still not deleting them, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disable the debug log. You have here the possibility to set debug logging. That's a different kind of debug logging. That is debug logging if you want to send this to a programmer, to Canto for debug problems, but you also have the ability, like you saw, to add yourself debug scripting to the log, and you saw all the information that came on screen. I'm going to turn this off, and this happens if you whenever you have a write text to log. This one does not have any debug check in front of it, so it will always export that to the log. But let me show you another line of write text to log. Here, this tag is prefixed with that debug tag. And then if Roboflow sees that tag, it first checks whether it finds a variable with that name, and if that variable is set to true. If it's set to true, it will output it. In this case, it will not. So if I now go to start of this workflow, the one above, it will find just those two files. It will look in two folders, but in that one folder it will find nothing, and in that other folder it should find those two files. You see, it's checking that folder, but it finds nothing. It's checking this folder, and then it says, I'm finding a file this, and I'm finding a file that. Finding means that it's also able to go and get detailed information about that file, check for the file date if you want. I'm just using a simple procedure. I'm just throwing away the files based on their file name. And so if I run this again, nothing has happened. Notice that it is sending out an email. In this example, in the script, we will see that at the end. In the script, I added some information that I'm storing in memory for each file that I am able to add to the report. And so you know that in Roboflow you have the ability to have bundled mail. So this is going to give you a report about the file, and this is the information it adds for each file that it processes. In this case there's only one file, it's this file, but could be multiple, but that doesn't matter. But it's given you that list report variable, and this is coming from, this is something I added in the action script. So anything that I find that I need to delete or to do comes in via mail, is added to a tag that I'm putting in a mail. So if we look at my mailbox, I'm going to open my mailbox, just a second. As you can see in my mailbox, I have done this test multiple times, and on the right you can see that it gives me checking folder. This is the name of the file, of your parameter file. You can determine if you want this information in here or not. That's all you can configure. And so I said I found this file. So it says files deleted, of course, because the purpose of this workflow is to delete these files. So we're going to run this workflow now again, and we're going to enable the deleting of the file. So I'm going here and I'm going to say, yes, you can delete the file. And then there we go. If I run the workflow again, I say start. I say show log, and what happens is it says checking new, nothing found, checking shared, and then it says the file to delete is this one. It's trying to delete it and it's successful apparently, so it says the file is deleted, and then it finds the second one and it says the file is deleted, and it's sending a report to me. So if we have a look in the mail, there it is, and now instead of saying just that it finds the file, it's now running in a real deletion mode. So it says, okay, this is the file to delete, and so you get the same feedback in your mail if you want. This is just an example. There's nothing mandatory about this. This is just how it could work. If I run the workflow again, and let's just start it over, and if I run it one more time, there's nothing to delete anymore. You will see that it will look in the same folders, and it will say, okay, let's go to the end. It says checking this folder, nothing, and it will report nothing deleted. So this could be a workflow that runs every morning or every first day of the month or something like that, cleaning up. But it could do, instead of deleting the file, it could also download the file and then delete it, or just download it. So there's a number of things you can do. Let's have a quick look on how I built this technically behind the scenes. So I'm storing an empty variable with this list report, which comes then into the mail, and then I'm processing the lines of my text file. So the incoming file is the hot file, and I'm testing, and this gives me then one line for each. what I test is it an empty line? I'm not going to process empty lines, because empty lines, it assumes that that is the root. So I want to be sure that you really want it to be the root. So if you really want it to be the root, that's why I said put a slash in the folder, and it will be then by my workflow I'm testing. If you just put in a slash, then I know that I have to ask Dropbox to oh sorry, it's here. Then I have to ask Dropbox to get me a list of the root, and the root is nothing and not a slash. It's just a precaution built in that I did in this example. Then what I'm saying is give me the list of files from Dropbox. What do I specify here? Very important is it picks up this, but if you create a new add these instructions, it adds automatically this information. So if you use this, for instance, workflow, or you name here in the parameters these parameters exactly the same way, you don't even have to modify anything. It's this is the syntax that that is used. Then I had this variable that contained the folder I wanted to check. So here it goes. I'm picking that up, and the result goes in here. The result is, as I said, a hash table, a table with key value pair. So first thing I do is, did I get from Dropbox such a table back, a result back? If I didn't get such a result back, then my request failed. Maybe my credentials aren't okay, or maybe this this folder doesn't exist, etc., etc. So then that would be processed here. Just put this in the log so that the user knows, hey, this doesn't exist. Then next thing I do is I process the rows of a table. And so as I said, this result from Dropbox comes in as a table. And in here, I know that the tag I'm looking for is called Dropbox path. So I test if the result from Dropbox, and I add the suffix key, which is under which the key is stored of the key value pair. Then this means that this section needs to be executed. If it's not that Dropbox element from the hash table, I'm just adding some debug information saying I'm skipping whatever you sent me, but here is the information for logging. So if you enable Debug Log, you will see that if you enable that debug tag there. So I'm assuming I found the right key. So this key contains a semicolon separated list of all the file paths that it finds in that particular folder. So what I'm doing then is I'm parsing this, I'm splitting this, creating an array of them so that I can process them one by one again. And so separating the semicolon. Then the next thing I do is I test the result. The result is a piece of text called file to check. And I'm checking this piece of text, which is the file path in Dropbox, against my regular expression. So my regular expression was this. And so that's the test I'm doing. I'm saying, is this file path, does that match my actual file filter? Is this a file I want to process? If not, again, I add debug information. If it is, then I'm testing whether I want to delete this. Am I in deletion mode here at the bottom? Am I in deletion mode? Yes or no? So if it's yes, then I go in here. If it's no, then I ask, as an example, I'm storing the information about the file, which gives me the file size, the file date. So that should give you, or could give you, the opportunity even to do some more testing, saying, okay, I don't have file name conventions to figure out if a file needs to be deleted. It's based on its age and what the date is. So then I'm asking for the result. I'm asking for all the information that Dropbox wants to give me about that file. So that's what you saw in the log, coming back with the client date, the server date, the the size, etc., etc. So all these things can then be used again to evaluate maybe how old a file is, how big a file is, etc., etc. So I'm testing if my request to Dropbox is valid. Which again returns a hash table. I called it result from Dropbox 2, and then I'm processing the result. Processing the result meaning just writing that information to the log. So I'm just outputting it as debug information to the log, saying, hey, this is the result from the file, and again, this was the name of the hash table. And so a normal picking up the value gives you this, but if you want to pick up the key, then you just add the keyword, the word key to your tag, and that will return you, in case of a hash table, whatever key there was. If the result was bad, then it will tell you, hey, I didn't get a result about this file. There's something wrong. Maybe you don't have the permission, or maybe there's some other problem. If this was the scenario that deletion is not yes, it's the else section that I was first looking at. If the deletion is enabled, if you set in that parameter that delete is set to yes, then I'm saying, okay, I'm going to delete, file to delete this one. I'm storing that information also for my mail, and then I'm actually saying delete the file. Again, this has the same parameters, the file key, which is the full path of the file, and then the result goes back to this Dropbox 2, which I'm then testing. Did I get a result back? Yes or no. If I didn't get a result back, I'm logging it. If I did get a result back, I'm saying, okay, the file is deleted, and all is good. And just for debug purposes, I output that information to the log if wanted. So you see, this is a very simple example how you can browse through your folder. You could even do things like, okay, I'm asking for the information of this file. It tells you that it isn't a file, so now I know it's a folder, so I'm asking for the list of files of that folder. And so you could go deeper and deeper and deeper, some kind of recursive searching for files that you want or need to delete. But this is already a pretty long training movie to explain how you can manage this. Mind you, this requires a version that is made in October, beginning of October 2018. So make sure when you watch this, if you have an older version of this running, that you first update to it. And as I showed you in the tests and in the logging, when it outputs the debug information about it, it will have that information, version info in there. So it can tell you what version of the plugin that you are using. So thank you for joining this pretty long training movie, and I hope to see you in the next one.